to Minister, Chairman of the RSA, Professor Cusack, invited guests. And I suppose most importantly, when I was just reflecting on some of the speeches earlier, I'm delighted to see that there are transition year students here from both the Marion College and the Presentation Convent. Because as Professor Cusack said earlier, I think that's really, really important. I'm also delighted that there are a lot of people here whom I know from the Irish Road Victims Association. And again, I think the Minister has just spoken about what we're here to do today. And I suppose before I get into what I actually want to say, I'd ask you maybe to think about what we're all doing here in the room today. And I mean all of us, the people up on the balconies, the people at the back, and all of us here. Because it is truly about partnership, as the Minister said. But it's much more than just about the partnership between Garda Síochána, the Medical Bureau of Road Safety, and the RSA. It's about partnership with the community, and it's about taking individual and collective responsibility. But what are we actually trying to do today here at the launch of the campaign? Yes, we have the road impairment test, which has been launched, and that's very important, and I'll come back to that. And yes, we're also launching the Christmas and New Year Safe Driving Initiative. But what are we trying to achieve in doing that? And that's what I'd ask you to think about today. What we're trying to do is, we're trying to save lives of our loved ones, lives of people that we know in our community, lives of our own families, and also, as well as that, what we're trying to do is protect people from being seriously injured. We're trying to protect people from being hurt by the loss or injury of a loved one. So, as I give you some of the ideas from Garda Síochána's point of view about what we can do, I want you to think about what it is we're actually trying to achieve. So we're trying to protect each other, we're trying to help each other, and we're trying to allow people to have an enjoyable Christmas and New Year without having tragedy, hurt and pain in their lives. So that puts a context on what we're trying to do. But I am absolutely delighted to be here today. It's a very important occasion. It's one that we support and we do in partnership every year with the Road Safety Authority and the Medical Bureau of Road Safety. And it is about launching the Christmas and the New Year Road Safety campaign, but it's a much longer campaign than that. We very much welcome the introduction of the roadside impairment testing. And Professor Cusack and the Chairman of the Road Safety Authority have spoken about the dangers of drugs. And we all hear every day, not just about driving, but the dangers of using drugs. And all types of drugs, not just illegal drugs, but also irresponsible use of prescription drugs is equally harmful to individuals and to society. And also in terms of driving, you've seen all of the road safety ads, and again I think it's a great opportunity to encourage our friends and families to look at those ads and to think about how they impair it. And I particularly love the one with the bowling ball, because I think it shows if you can't even do a bit of good bowling after having a few joints or after taking some drugs, it just goes to show how off-kilter that you can get. So I think there's really important messages in those ads, and I'd encourage everybody to encourage your friends and family to watch them. But the new road safety impairment test will be a very valuable addition to the range of enforcement measures already in place to improve road safety. As with other road safety initiatives such as reducing the alcohol limit and the introduction of penalty points, the use of drug driving tests will undoubtedly save lives and prevent a serious injury. As we do with all road traffic offences, but particularly the life-saving issues such as mobile phones, speeding and seatbelts, we will rigorously enforce these new regulations. But enforcement is just one part, and actually we in Garda Síochána and my colleagues are all here, we will do absolutely everything that we can to enforce the implementation of these offences. But it's much more than just about enforcement. It comes back to that partnership and that responsibility. Enforcement is just one way to reduce road deaths and serious collisions. But it's actually people taking responsibility for their own behaviour is going to be the key to taking back the figures and saving lives. Education and awareness is absolutely critical, and this campaign that we're launching today is a very important element of that. We want to inform all road safety users how to use the roads safely and responsibly for the betterment of all of us. But while we will continue to work with a wide range of our partners to enforce the law and educate people about using our roads safely, as I say, it's ultimately people themselves that can take responsibility for their own actions will make the difference. And as I was sitting there listening to some of the speeches and looking around the room, I was thinking, you know, I'm sure particularly all of the students here, none of us are harassed sometimes and nagged and cajoled by our parents, by our children, by everybody. But I think this is an opportunity for us And I often think peer pressure sometimes can be a really good thing. So all of us have parents who drive, we all have older siblings, we have younger siblings that we put into cars, and also we have friends who take us for a spin, that should be to the local shop or wherever. And you know, if we just take long enough to say, well actually put on your seatbelt. And recently we were at a ceremony to remember victims of road fatalities and road collisions. And I remember speaking to somebody there, and actually they made a very interesting point. Now with new cars, everybody gets a beep beep to tell you to put on your seatbelt in the front of the car, but actually very few people in the back of the car actually think that it's important to put on your seatbelt. And very few people actually look into the back of the car to make sure that their backseat passengers are safely secured in. And that's a very simple thing, but I think it's something that we can really do and we can focus on. Because I think by putting pressure on each other to actually put on your seatbelts, don't use our mobile phones, and slowing down. And I'll come to some interesting little statistics that you just might remember in terms of what it means. But it is completely, in my view, unacceptable and highly dangerous, and not to mention illegal, for people not to wear a seatbelt or fail to put on proper restraints, to be speeding or to be using their mobile phones while driving. And you might be very interested to know that despite all of the campaigns and all of the awareness campaigns, this year alone, since January, 1,000 people per month have been prosecuted for not wearing seatbelts in their cars. So that's 1,000 people per month have not got the message that it is illegal to wear a seatbelt, but mostly that it is very, very dangerous and they are endangering themselves and other road users by not wearing a seatbelt and by not slowing down. In relation to speeding, we have said it before, but I have no problem saying it again today, changing driver behaviour can and will reduce road collisions. Slowing down by just 1% can lead to a 4% reduction in deaths and serious collisions. That's why it's really important to remind ourselves as drivers, no matter how much of a hurry we're in, but also to remind our friends and families, it's important to take your time, to slow down and to give yourself plenty of time to get to your destination. Failing to take these simple steps has led to people losing their lives this year, and that tragedy is compounded by the fact that those lives could have been saved. Statistics show that 22% of deaths may have been prevented had people been wearing their seatbelts. And that's a staggering figure. It also shows that, I know that the victims groups here, as I say, can tell you of the heartbreak that's caused by losing a loved one and by irresponsible driving. There's people, family members here today and victims themselves who can tell you how terrible it is to live with an injury that's caused by either somebody else's reckless driving or maybe just taking a shortcut yourself. I firmly believe if irresponsible drivers could see the distress, the hurt and the anguish that they cause to bereaved families and individuals, they would change their driving behaviour forever. I would urge everyone using the roads to think about how their actions, whether it is speeding, not putting on a seatbelt, or not wearing a high-vis jacket in dark, could end in a terrible tragedy. The chairman spoke about particularly pedestrians and cyclists, and at this time of the year, particularly when on dark, cold nights, people are very wrapped up and they always don't think about wearing a high-vis jacket, and sometimes with an overcoat or something more cumbersome on them, they don't put on their high-vis jacket. But it's vitally important. All of us here are pedestrians at some stage, and it's vitally important we remember to light up. Equally for cyclists and pedestrians, and I've seen it, and we all do it. We go for a walk with our iPad, with our iPhone or our smartphone, and we have earphones in our ears. Or we're cycling to or from school with earphones in our ears. We're not alert or aware of what's around us. We don't hear and we don't see everything because we're focused on whatever information is coming in or music has been played. It's so important that we're alert and aware of our environment, whether we be pedestrians walking or whether we be cyclists cycling. And again, just a little bit of thought going into that, and for drivers to be aware of pedestrians and cyclists, it can help so much. Unfortunately, as the Chair already has said, after a very significant reduction in road deaths over the last 10 years, the last 2 years have seen an increase. And again, as I said at the outset, we don't just look at it in terms of statistics. We look at it in terms of an increase means that people have lost their lives. We are very intent, as I say, on enforcing the legislation. We are very intent on dealing with that, but we cannot do it alone. We in Garda Síochána cannot save lives alone. It's driver behaviour will save lives, and awareness will save lives. While we still have a very good safety record in comparison to most European countries, we cannot be complacent because it is about people. We need to work together so we can once again get back to a situation where road deaths are reducing. Professor Cusack and his colleagues in the Medical Bureau of Road Safety, who I know a lot of them are here today, have spoken about the work that we do in Garda Síochána to make sure that we are implementing the law fairly, that these tests that we're going to administer are done professionally and practically, and that we take into account if people have genuine medical reasons that they cannot take into these tests. And we thank Professor Cusack and his colleagues here for helping us deliver that professional training, which is really important for the success of these initiatives. But as I say, Christmas and the New Year, the campaign today is about the Christmas and the New Year period. It's a time for joy, it's a time for festivity, and it's a time for sharing with loved ones. It's a time for thinking back and reflecting on the year that has been and looking forward to the year that is ahead. So again, I would ask all of you here to work with us to make sure that we can have a very happy and joyous Christmas, that we can look forward to the new year with joy and with inspiration, and that we won't have to deal, or fewer people will have to deal with the hurt and the anguish of losing a loved one or having to look into a year of dealing with a serious injury. So I would say, let's all behave responsibly, let's work closely together so that everyone can enjoy safer roads and a safer society. So thank you all very much.